Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today I'm bringing you guys the finals of another draft league, but this one was one that was a little more near, dear, and personal to me than the prior one. While the prior draft league finals game, which if you guys haven't seen, check it out. It's on my channel from last week, was for big money. This one held a big place in my heart. It was for a draft league that I hosted alongside SSBG. For those of you that don't know, and I'll try and link some information about them down below in the description. They're a really great group of people. They deal with, Smogon and VGC stuff. I believe they're mainly located on Facebook. They also have a Twitter. Check them out there. I'll try and link them down below. But some of their, I don't know if they're necessarily ringleaders, moderators, or what, but some of the guys, Nova Chororno and Arun Darago. I'm sorry if I mispronounced those names. But those guys, they hit me up and they're like, hey, we want to run a draft league with you. They laid out this whole format and everything. We worked some logistics together. In particular, Nova Trono laid out a ton of stuff. And not only that, but Arun Drago, while he was also involved, was also a great player in the draft league. These two guys had their whole infrastructure, and I was kind of a fly on the wall. While I gave my ideas, these guys went to work and we organized it in my Discord server with, half of it was for people from my community, half was from their community. It was amazing. We had over a dozen people, I believe, like 15, 20 people, something like that, and it was amazing. We had a nice draft, and lo and behold, we were here. Basically, it was national decks. There were tier lists, a lot of Mega. I had Mega Slowbro, and then there were certain, like, if you drafted lower tier Mega, you were allowed higher tier other Pokemon. It was a long format. I'm not going to go through the whole drafting process. In part because I feel like doing that just for the finals game would be a bit much, and in part because I know you guys just want to see me fight Pokemon and give analysis on the games. That's what you guys are into. So I just want to say humongous thank you to these guys for running it. And the SSBG community, you guys, big place in my heart. If I ever do anything again, it'd be an absolute honor, really. I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, wow, you get to work with Finch. It's so cool as a fielder. But nah, for me, from my perspective, it's so cool to work with people who have a different perspective in the game, who aren't as engrossed necessarily in this Smogon culture like I am. Because, man, that shit's icky sometimes. It's nice to get away. And it was so cool to see how people had thrown a spin on, preparation and whatnot. And this was just a blast through and through. I want to say thank you so much. In particular, also to my finals opponent, Forrester. I don't think we got to play through in different divisions initially, but he made it all the way here. I made it all the way here as well, thankfully. A lot of great players like my boy Deej from the World Cup Pokemon were in the tournament, really tight. Also, my moderator friend ABHI, unfortunately didn't quite make it this far. He had a tough regular season, but those are my boys for sure. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the game. So right off the bat, I knew I was facing a pretty offensive team. It felt as if he was going to kind of go without a defensive backbone structure and just focus on breaking me down offensively. And because of that, I knew I could capitalize on maybe the instant gratification basis that he was kind of focusing around, i.e. he had a lot of Pokemon with like splashable coverage, like Aerodactyl, Cruncher, Thunderfang for the Slowbro or Toxic, Ice Fang for Garchomp, Airlace for Vileplume, Stone Edge for the rest, Hydreigon can do pretty much anything. You gotta assume it's gonna run Flash Cannon for Clef. I also have things like Lantern in the back. I had Scizor in the back, and so on and so forth. But I knew off the bat I kind of played my things well. I had some pretty particular sets. It was cool because given how offensive he was, he didn't have a ton of walls, so I could run things like Bulky Garchomp with leftovers, Toxic, Earthquake, Flamethrower, and that's threatening to him. I could run things like standard Vileplume and Slowbro, and Future Sight Scald, and I could force certain plays a lot. That means I'm getting Clefabling consistently on his Hydreigon, and his Fire Resists aren't too durable in this matchup. As you see, he didn't bring a Steel type here. I think he had one in the back, but it didn't match up too favorably. I also considered bringing my Regice, but I didn't love how it enabled Marowak Lola, but it did do well against Hydreigon, Primarina. But yeah, Vileplume was basically just here for Breloom. But it also was nice against Primarina, so it's cool. And 28HT is just really good. It's threatening everything in this matchup right now, so I really love that. And also, I noticed he didn't really have a Cleric. He didn't really have much status token besides Poison Breloom, which doesn't want to switch into many status inducers in this team. So I knew I could win by status and just a war of attrition in the long term. So my plan was to focus on wearing him out rather than just outright dinking and dunking, because he had more offense, I had more balance. So that was kind of the flow of my game plan. And let's go ahead and get into it and see how this game goes. So right off the bat, he leads Aerodactyl. I lead Slowbro, figuring it does well against everything. It even lives a Poltergeist and Mega if I need to. I Teleport, figuring he goes Hydreigon always. That lets me get Clefabling. Clefablin's Rocks go up, and that's kind of how I get started. So I'm Rocks up, and he's got 2 Stealth Rock weak Pokemon, and 2 Pokemon use Defog, but both Defoggers don't handle Clef too well. Ender C should at least get a Fog or 2 off, but not great. He goes Primarina. this signals one of two things to me. Either one, man is like one of three things actually. The two most likely would be that he's either like a Whirlpool Parasong set trying to trap me, or trap Vileplume if he's especially bulky enough or got rest, which would make a ton of sense to help with Breloom, but I didn't really have the ability to risk it being sub-combined to second set, which would set up all over Clefable. I need to go to Vileplume ASAP, because I knew that if he's a Parasong set, yeah, he could probably trap Vileplume by resting, but he'd also take a ton of damage along the way, so he couldn't trap something else, and also that means he's not combined. So I didn't need Vileplume as much. So I felt this was the best play, even if it meant me losing this in the long term. But the third option would he'd be Specs, and I'm specially defensive-ish. I believe, a Berry on this as well. So I wasn't as worried about Specs in the initial play, but in the long term that could have been problematic too. Vileplume was just always the play because of that. So I go to it, he Scalds here, and only does 12. So I'm like, okay, he's bulky, he gets to burn. Great for me, but I'll live. He goes Hydreigon here. I think my play is always just a Sludge Bomb, but I Corrosive Gas. In hindsight, taking Life Orb off was pretty nice though, because it means Clef's never get into a Kyogre even if he's modest. Did you see that it's just 37? So yeah, with the special defense drop, I would have been toasted. It was a really nice turn, because if you like Draco into Torn there, I would have been crap. I get a free soft build up. We're seeing things take rock damage. He's lost Life Orb, so I feel like I've got a slight edge here. He makes a nice play here, double switching, perhaps predicting the Vileplume. I go Tornado's T though in the mid ground. A couple reasons why. First and foremost, when he went Primarina, I felt like he was never going to sub-fight a Vileplume in the back, so he might Scald. And I can get a knockoff or a Toxic off before he gets his sub or a Combined off. That'd be huge for Tornado's T. But in addition, I figured there's a chance he'd predict Vileplume and double switch out. What would the double switch probably be to? Either the Marowak or maybe to this Landorus T. Because Landorus T, could get a defog off on it. It could be Lumber, it could be Sub-Swords Dance, those type of things there. And I felt Tornado's T being able to live any hit, even an Adamant Stone Edge with my EV spread, was actually pretty well off against it. But if you went to Marowak Lola, knocking off the Thick Club would be huge. You'd be scared out of a potential U-turn. I didn't think he'd risk Aerodactyl there, in part because there's a chance Clefable stays in and goes like a attack move. And it could be like an electric move, or even Moonblast. We don't want to take that after Rock, especially before the Mega Evolution. And in part because Aerolis wouldn't always kill Vileplume. I'm just like really physically defensive, and he might not even have it in this matchup. And ISO Fall with Glowbro, and he's taking rocks. It just didn't feel like a very productive move on his end. So I was good with that. Anyways, yeah, I get a fast Toxic off here, which is basically a huge part of my game plan. He doesn't even go for Defog or Stone Edge or anything. He goes U-turn. That does let him get Aerodactyl in, and it can use Pursuit in this. Pursuit's loud, Hidden Power is loud. But thankfully, he doesn't even do that. So I get out of it pretty unscathed. But then he Toxics the Slowbro. So I'm like, okay, a little bit of a timer here, but that's fine. He goes Primarina, and I think I always teleport here just to get the momentum back up. And yeah, I get that aforementioned Tornadus on Primarina scenario in. He goes Landorus here, and I think at this point, I just Toxic just to be safe. U-turn probably was the best play, but I was scared he might sub on a U-turn, not like fearing Toxic, but no, he's never going to risk that at this point. Whatever, U-turn, Slowbro. It gives him a free defog, but he's still taking a couple rounds of Toxic and U-turn. So that's still not a bad sequence for me. I just got to manage to get the Clef back in here. I teleport here. Fortunately, I don't get that opening yet. I bring Tornadus in here. He brings Primarina. Now he goes Aerodactyl, and I think I Hurricane, just mid-ground. I figure if he goes Landorus, fine. If he goes whatever, fine. If he goes Arrow, I force a Roost if I hit, and that's just what happens. So yeah, again, now I can force another teleport sequence where hopefully I bait in Hydreigon like I do here, and I get the Clefable, because nothing else wants to switch into Scald right now, so that's pretty helpful for me. That lets me get Stealth Rock back up, and I've worn out Landorus T a little bit more. So again, just incremental progress here. He goes Sub here. I go Knockoff, trying to get a little greedy, and this is something I regret. I should have always stuck to going to Vileplume. That was always the best plan. He goes Calm Mind here. Now, I actually have some special attack on this. So I'm a little surprised that this played out as it did. It broke, but then he could have probably Calm Mind again. If he avoided poison one turn, he could have actually won the 1v1. But instead he goes Aerodactyl, and I was shocked he switched out despite Blue and Plus. So I think he should have played it differently. Because, see, if you're going to Calm Mind a second time, then you've got to be prepared to commit to it. So I think he should just attack, try to force some damage on me, and maybe force a Strength Sap on the switch to something like Marowak. Then he gets a free entry. But he doubles to Marowak anyway, except now it's after taking 17% plus Stealth Rock and Aerodactyl, leaving that at 59%. Stealth Rock is going to leave it at around 35%. That's really low to begin with. But then he also doubles Marowak, but he does it on the Slowbro, not the Vileplume, which is a lot less good for it. Because if I Mega Evolve, I could live a Poltergeist easy, and then I could Scald. But Mega Evolving does sacrifice one of my counterplay forms to Landorus and Aerodactyl. So I'm like, he's going to probably be baited into Poltergeisting here. And even if he goes for Bone Club or Earthquake, which I don't even know that he necessarily has, or Low Kick, I have an Incineroar, which A, creeps Marowak Lola's Adamant variants. B, is able to live even that hit after Stealth Rock, although I'm in Boots, but even if I get knocked off like took like a weak knockoff from say Landorus T and then Stealth Rock, I would still live that. I'm physically bulky and then I pumped out the speed to outrun this, so it was kind of like my Marowak safe. So what I do here is instead of risking anything, I go Incineroar, and thankfully he goes for Poltergeist, and as you see here, it only does 27%. Despite there being like adamant max, it kind of bounced off, which is nice for me. He goes Hydreigon here in the U-turn, and I'm like, oh, I got damage on it, that's nice. I go Garchomp here knowing fully well I can take it out with Draco, and surprisingly, he stays and lets it go. That works really well for me. He didn't let it switch in, though. He goes Primarina here, and now he doubles to Breloom. I Toxic it, figuring I live a Moonblast, he's probably bulky. He goes Breloom, he turns out to be Toxic Orb anyway, he dodges the Toxic, no big deal. But now this is where it gets annoying, because I gotta go my Weakened Vileplume on it every time. And he doubles the Landorus T in it, and I'm like, I'm specially defensive. If he's adamant max attack, Earthquake can take me out. So I go Slowbro here, and he just goes Defog. I wish I went Strength Tap on that turn, but I digress. I still feel like I'm in a good spot, because I could just pivot around, but I need to find a place to get Clefable in now, because all of a sudden Hydreigon, the main thing I Stealth Rock on, isn't actually in commission anymore. He goes Breloom here, which means I get 200 and a teleport. I could U-turn here, and now he goes Aerodactyl, and I'm fine always getting rocks up here. In part because he's scared, because I could kill him with like a super effective attack, or I could status cripple him so he wants to heal up. In part because I should always live a Stone Edge, even if it crits. It's got a chance to a kill, but yeah. Thankfully I get rocks on the Roost. He Stone Edges a Slowbro, but that doesn't mean much to me. I even scout for like a Crunch or a crit. I go to Garchomp on the double switch. He goes to Breloom there. All fine with me. I just Flamethrower, playing it pretty safe. Unfortunately, it's going to fall just short of Tukyoing the Landorus, which might have some special defense, but Draco should take it out. But then I missed Draco, but he overpredicts in U-turns, which I was a little surprised about here. And after the Rough Skin, U-turn's going to kill him by rocks, and nothing else does Defog, so I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. He goes Arrow, indicating he's got Ice Fang. That's a pretty easy scout on my end. I go Slowbro here. He goes Landorus T, fighting it off again, and I think I just go for Teleport here, figuring he's probably going to do that. Lets me get Incineroar, which baits an Arrow. Arrow is totally fine with me because it takes rocks, and again, it invites in Slowbro. As you see there, it only does 32%, and if I Mega, it'll do even less, so I feel like here I could just probably slack off or Teleport out. Oh, no, actually, this time I call him to predict me to Teleport, so he can negate Regen damage with the Stone Edge, Ice Scald, and I get it correct, which unfortunately as insult to injury puts me in a 6-3 position here. Now, I think in this juncture, he goes Breloom, and now he makes some pretty good plays, in my opinion. I go Vileplume here as he substitutes. Great play on his end. And now, I'm like, oh shit, I'm weakened, and he's found a substitute. What can I do? And Tattered Insult's Injury, Facade kills me here. If he's Adamant Max Attack, it always kills. If not, it could have been a roll, but neither here nor there. I still get the Flamethrower killing this Breloom, that's fine, and he goes Spore. Now, I'm like, okay, I might actually need to play some games here. So first off, he Focus Punches, and that's totally fine. Tornadus is always living even a crit Focus Punch you see here. That was 47. And now I Hurricane, and he stays, and that's a little weird. In part because Facade, even if it kills me, like, he's not in a winning position. I got Clefable in the back. This is an Overheat Incineroar, and it's probably quicker than it if it's got any bulk. If it's max speed, it's max speed. But I don't know why he'd run max speed. I don't really have anything at speed tier besides Scissor, which mainly hits it with Bullet Punch, so yeah, that was kind of my thought. And Lantern, I guess, but Lantern's normally slow, so yeah. I figured he was bulky, so I was like, okay, I've got a couple layers of backup, especially because his only fighting move to hit me super effectively would be a Focus Punch. And also, Intimidate means that Clef would hard counter. So I felt like I was pretty safe now that I had a Sleep Fodder. But I didn't want to lose to Primarina after this. And here's the kicker. Primarina's at 81. And I'm fairly certain, given the speed of my Incineroar, that it was quicker than his Primarina. And he land a Toxic off in it anyway. I'm like Overheat, U-turn, Toxic, knockoff or something like that. I can't remember. I know I had some status move for some knockoff move, and from there that would deter it. Clefable also had a way of dealing with it as well, if need be. So I was like, okay, but not great. Like, if I was able to get it knocked off, assuming if it was quicker than Incineroar, I could have lost. Yeah, that's how I'd phrase it. But thankfully I hit the Hurricane, and that was that. I mean, at worst, I had a 30% chance to lose from there, and thankfully I hit. But even then, there might have been a chance I won. It really depended a lot on the spreads, and we didn't flesh out the game enough to really figure that out. But yeah, he goes Marowak here, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to risk even if I knock him off a crit or anything. I think I dropped knockoff on this. I had knockoff Incineroar, yeah. So I wasn't even knockoff, my bad. I misspoke. But yeah, I figured, okay, this is an easy Poltergeist on the Incineroar here. Now his U-turn is using him quicker, but this allows me to just slowly cycle around. He's -1. Poltergeist would have done a fair amount, but I was just firing this Slowbro so I can get the kill. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of surprised the Earthquake. So I can get the kill with a healthy Tornadus T. And I was actually going to do this a couple times over just to start weaken this so I didn't risk the Tornadus T or anything. Because if I was in good shape, then I could just have it so that his last non-Primarina was only out against my Tornadus T, which meant I just land a Toxic and I win the game. And even if I miss one, if I Hurricane at the next one, it'll always break Substitute, so I would just have to hit the next one. So yeah, I basically put myself like a 90-some% chance to win, and I hit the first Toxic, and that's game. He subs, but yeah, a little too late. And I believe I'll walk away with a 4-0 or a 5-0 victory. He turned out to be DRACOS last anyway, by the way, which honestly was kind of cool, but against the Vileplume with the Vexpor kind of shocked me that he went that way. But hey, good for him, all the power to him. He goes Scald there, and yeah, it's like a Torrent Scald does 45. And yeah, I just got Chance T. I'm just trying to stall it out. He goes DRACOS, is fine with me. And I believe that's game. So I'm going to thankfully win the SSBG Draft League. Again, SSBG and I, we teamed up, run a really cool league. Shout out to those guys. Humongous fans of their work. They put in hard work. And thank you so much for having me and letting me help run it with you guys. And hope everyone enjoyed. I certainly did. This is my, thankfully, my victory lap game. Always nice to win. You know how it is. Alright guys, like, comment, subscribe. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.